So how do we avoid interviewing like Dr. Hartley and handle media relations instead, like a pro? The short answer is to be prepared. It really is about understanding the media and their needs. Let's start by looking at the different kinds of stories that reporters may be chasing. Hard news stories are basically stories that are time-related. In healthcare, these may be about getting local reaction to issues that are happening in other areas, or maybe about the launch of a new product or service. These stories may be prompted by an advisory that your organization sends out. That's a public notification about a new service or change, or perhaps something like a gastrointestinal outbreak. These types of stories are more often initiated by the media organizations themselves, seeking comment about an issue they believe is in the public's interest. This could range from something minor, such as a response to another hospital maybe doing a policy change like visiting hours, to a full-fledged crisis type of story, such as an allegation of mismanagement. General feature reporting is the softer side of the news. These stories are more timeless than their hard news cousins. Often the stories that healthcare organizations may see as hard news may actually be treated as features by the media. These stories may not be at the top of the news cycle. That means that if you issue a media release about something today, news organizations may not respond to them for a few days, or maybe even weeks. Or they may come and cover the story, and it may perhaps take a few days before the final piece appears in the news. Then we come to investigative reporting. These stories often involve several sources and can take place over a long period of time. These are often stories that have legs, and once one media organization airs or print the piece, others may join in. So how do you know what to expect from what media organizations? Different types of media will use your story in different ways. A story for radio will likely be a maximum of 30 seconds. That means that the clips the reporter will use from you will be much shorter. You need to be succinct and clear. You want to ensure that the 5 or 10-second clip is of you delivering your key message. Television stories typically run 1 to 2 minutes in length. Your clips are usually only about 15 seconds, so again, remember to be brief, clear, and focused on delivering the message you want to get across. Newspaper stories provide an opportunity for more quotes to be used. Typically, reporters are interested in getting the answers to the 5 W's and H: who, what, where, when, why, and how. But don't simply expect your engagement with reporters to be so simple. Now that there's more media convergence, reporters are posting across many platforms. You need to be prepared. Print reporters are recording interviews, TV reporters are writing stories, radio reporters are looking for images to go in their online postings. For you, as a source, you need to make sure that you don't get caught off guard. That means you may think twice about doing a print interview right after your morning workout. Media interviews are where you have an opportunity to use your key messages. Remember what we learned in week 5 about the writing of key messages for your communications planning? You want to do the same thing in planning for a media interview. If you're being interviewed about a topic that you've got a communication plan prepared for already, you've already got your messaging well underway. Remember, you want to deliver a maximum of 3 key messages. Make sure your responses come back to cover your message. You want to ensure, though, that your messages clearly state the position or ideas you want to deliver. To do this, you need to have an understanding of what the reporter's story is going to focus on. You want to demonstrate your value to the conversation. As a representative of a healthcare organization, you need to dress and talk the role. Your position and persona matter and help your message carry weight. For example, if the interview is about hand-washing compliance among staff in a hospital, ensure that you have a message that says something like, "I got into healthcare because I want to help people get better. I'm focused on making sure my patients get the best care we can provide." Make sure your key messages are clear and free of jargon. You may be delivering messages similar to those that you've been delivering in your organization, but remember that speaking within the culture and context of the healthcare environment is different than speaking to the general public. Practice delivering your messages and question them. Ask yourself if your neighbor would understand what it is you meant by them. And finally, ensure that your messages are quotable. They need to evoke meaning and emotion to the audience. Everyone develops certain ways to perform their job better. The same goes for media. Their interest is in getting the best, most interesting story possible. That means they need you, the subject of the interview, to provide them with some quotable responses. So there are a few tricks of the trade that reporters have developed over time to draw out some of those Dr. Hartley-isms. The good news is, with proper planning and understanding, you don't have to take the bait. So the first tactic is the machine gun approach to questioning. This is when a reporter asks several questions, packed into one that usually ends with something juicy that your innermost being will want to jump on to answer. Remember, you don't have to do that. Cherry pick which part of the question you want to answer and bridge to your response into one of your key messages. The second tactic is bad choices. These are questions that involve either or ors. Don't repeat either alternative. Simply respond with neither. Actually, the real issue is. A third tactic is poor manners. Some reporters will interrupt you if they aren't interested in your response by asking you the next question. Respond politely with, "Before I answer that, let me complete what I was saying." Paraphrasers are really tough. Ruth Corley did that one. "You mean there's a deranged man in a position of power?" Dr. Hartley began to answer that correctly with "No," but then he went off the rails with, "He isn't deranged anymore." Perhaps he should have instead responded with, "No, that isn't what I said. What I said was." So be careful not to repeat what the reporter has paraphrased. You never want to provide a clip that could be spliced into a story. Next type is sandbag or setup questions, and they're just as they sound, and they were very evident in the Newhart show clip. Correct the premise and bridge back to your key messages. And if a reporter uses incorrect information, again, correct the inaccuracy, but never repeat the mistake. Finally, don't get involved in a he said, she said situation in the media. If a reporter brings up an accusation or criticism from another source, don't hash it out in the media. You can simply say that you will address that issue with that party directly. There are many excellent media training resources available on the internet, and if you ever find yourself scheduled to talk to a reporter, I'd suggest that you get as much help from any internal experts that you may have in your organization, such as a communications or public relations team, or spend some time perusing some of the tips and tricks that are posted online.